For today's story, we discuss a regulation from the FAA that would require all drone owners to put a locating beacon on their drone that would broadcast the drone's location at all times. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this content, and today will be the day I earn your subscription. But first, a huge shout out to this video's supporter, Aura. Aura is a company that can help you with identity theft protection and credit monitoring. 2021 has seen 1 billion records get hacked from major social media sites, cryptocurrency exchanges, phone companies, internet providers, and other sources. So what can you do to protect yourself? Aura is a new type of security service that helps to protect your online accounts, internet connection, and devices with one simple subscription. So how can you protect yourself? Well, go to aura.com/uncivillaw. When you use my link below, aura.com/uncivillaw, you'll get up to 40% off on all plans, plus a money-back guarantee for new subscribers if you're not fully satisfied, which I believe you will be. aura.com/uncivillaw to help protect you against the growing threats of credit card fraud and identity theft protection in this increasing digital age. For today's coverage, we are covering an ongoing situation with the FAA. The FAA has proposed a locator beacon be put onto every single drone that flies that would broadcast its location at all times. Now, this is done for normal aircraft and helicopters, which broadcast their location. It's one of the things that makes them trackable, and other planes can see them because they broadcast their location. So planes have this, but the question is, should drones? And perhaps even more so, does the FAA currently have the authority under the current statutes to propose such a regulation? Well, one person is suing to say no. It is currently pending in the DC Court of Appeals. So they've already had oral argument. We are waiting for a decision, but let's cover the issue in the meantime. In early August, Race Day Quads dropped a 14,000-word, 154-page brief in a potentially ground-shaking case challenging the legality of the FAA's actions during the 2 years it took to finalize a final rule on remote identification of unmanned aircraft. A win for RDQ would likely blow up the rule and require FAA to go back to square one on the process. The cascading effects could include additional delays in routine expanded commercial droning operations, including operations over people and beyond visual line of sight. It could impact implementation of low-altitude unmanned traffic management systems. All these operations and systems remain critical to getting the nascent commercial drone industry off the ground. And so the fight is finally on. So yes, the benefits of having a broadcasting system that would broadcast location are, obvious, if concerning, but they're obvious, right? If each drone is broadcasting its location, then at least hypothetically, every drone could pick up on those signals, and it would help to avoid collisions. And also, commercial aircraft can pick up on those and would help to avoid collisions, which is definitely a thing that does occur. And also would also help the FAA to find people who are violating zones that they're not allowed to fly in, no-fly zones near airports, for example, for exactly that reason. So it would allow the FAA more ability to manage the airspace. So there's a potentially good reasons to potentially allow this, but of course it's a concern because continuously broadcasting location reveals something about the user, namely where they are, and it's another way to track the person as well. And it also raises concerns just generally about the Fourth Amendment, and also as well as the FAA's regulation authority when it comes to drones specifically. So there's good policy reasons to do this, and there's also concerns under the underlying law. The final rule from the FAA, which has been challenged, would require all drones over 0.55 pounds, which, that's like 9 ounces, so not very heavy at all, would require them all to register with the FAA an electronic license plate that would give their number like a normal commercial aircraft, in the form of either an RID, which is integrated to the drone or attached to the drone, so this would be backwards compatible. The required technology would transmit messaging elements through a broadcast signal which would be available to any member of the public. That will include, among other things, the location of the drone and also, of course, implicitly, its operator. Law enforcement and security agencies would have the ability to triangulate this data to help pinpoint bad actors. Yeah, because you're broadcasting the data, right? So you're broadcasting a ping, and it can be received by towers, and then it can be located as to exactly where it is. So the FAA knows if you're violating, the rules for drone pilots, for example. The final rule surprised many in the drone industry because it differed so significantly from the original proposal. Published New Year's Eve 2019, the proposal focused on network-based RID solutions, in which drones would be required to have both network and broadcast capabilities. Limited drones, which the FAA jettisoned in the final rule and replaced with the drone rules, would have been network only. A Florida-based attorney who's also an FAA certified flight instructor and unmanned certified pilot has a winning track record on challenging FAA rules, including Taylor versus Herrera, which overturned the 2015 registration requirement for recreational aircraft. So yeah, this was an old rule that would have required everyone to register their planes or drones, and that was overturned. RDQ is taking the FAA to task for a number of reasons, because the rule presents significant challenges for drone racing. According to Brennan, the concept does not take into account the fact that 99% of pilots currently fly in parks, woods, and in their own backyards, not in the open fields of likely protected spaces, such as the Academy of Model Aeronautics. So this rule might influence and prevent drone racing as a sport. But of course, there's more at stake than just flight location. There's also money at stake. Brendan has estimated that drone racing enthusiasts spend $75 million a year on equipment. Government regulations that impose costs on the public must be fully and fairly considered, and the public should have a say in how the government determines how far regulations need to go. The head of the group that is suing has stated, "We are seeking to protect the constitutional rights of U.S. citizens to be free from unreasonable search from the government when they're flying in their own backyards." Because, yeah, obviously, if you're flying this in your own backyard, you're flying it within the curtilage of your home at low enough altitudes, like below 150 feet, which is the normal threshold, then that raises concerns about the government now conducting a search of your home. So there represents some problems. Also, there's significant concern that the FAA simply ignored the comments by not responding adequately or at all to material comments about FAA's statutory and constitutional authority to regulate non-commercial drones and non-navigable airspace. The navigable airspace is above 150 feet, and drones typically fly at lower altitudes than that. So does the FAA even have authority to regulate in this kind of space? The FAA has argued in turn that the RID digital license plate does not equate to an unreasonable search under the Fourth Amendment. Because they're in the air, which is already extensively regulated by the FAA, yes, in the navigatable airspace, which is above 150 feet. And there's no privacy right in the movement of planes up there. In the navigatable airspace, yes, but this is lower than that, so there's a problem. There's also been criticism that the FAA received private communications, secret communications, that were not adequately disclosed to the public, and these communications might have formed the basis of some of the FAA's decision. So in the context of these secret communications, the government has admitted the FAA held an RID tech demo and encouraged RID-related R&D and created an industry cohort. It averred that none of these efforts impacted the final version of the rule. And even assuming the FAA considered materials from the cohort and abandoning the rule's internet transmission requirement, petitioners lack standing to challenge the alleged procedural violation. So they are saying that you can't raise that concern, which doesn't seem right to me off the top of my head, because the issue is one of transparency and everyone being able to see what everyone else's comments are, including anyone who might have an interest in the regulation, which their perspective is as valid as anyone else's, but to have it in secret defies the point of the notice and comment provisions of the Administrative Procedures Act. So that brings us to the end of the discussion about this FAA regulation. The FAA wants to put a transmitter locator or beacon that would broadcast its serial number or other sort of identifier, and that would broadcast it at all times, regardless of where you flew, regardless of what height, and even if it was in private spaces. which presents concerns on search and seizure, particularly in the home, at under 150 feet. 150 feet is where the current case law is. And so the FAA wants to regulate that. And also, Congress previously had said the FAA cannot regulate this space. So this seems to be in defiance of congressional mandate as well. So there's a lot of different arguments here about whether the FAA can do this, and even assuming that they can, whether or not they follow the correct procedures. This is currently before the U.S. District Court of Appeals. Right now, oral argument has been held, so we'll keep attention to this. And at least for the moment, that brings us to the end of discussion of this case. Thank you so much for being part of the Uncivil Law family. If you enjoyed this legal education content, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. We appreciate your continuing support. And until later, my friends, cheers and goodbye.